Today on Spotlight, Expedition Zero. We have another Tiny Build project I'm covering for Spotlight, and as a heads up, this Spotlight is sponsored by Tiny Build. They supply me with a code to their beta release of Expedition Zero, so if you're at all interested after watching this, you can find the info for what you need in the description below. As I'm heading into this, I do want to keep in mind that this is a beta release, so a couple of things might seem a little off, and I want to use that opportunity to provide some feedback. That said, Expedition Zero, developed by Enigmatic Machines, I've been in a horror kick as of late, so I think I'm covering this at the appropriate time. Let's get the fundamentals out of the way first. Expedition Zero sees yourself at the heart of rural Siberia, where a meteorite has crashed and turned the nearby forest into a corrupted cesspool of darkness. Using your skills as an engineer, who I guess has nothing else to live for or nothing else to do, maybe he's bored, you set off for the forest and try to discover the truth of what's lurking in the shadows. Okay, so that takes care of the written intro part of this video, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What we have here is a horror FPS adventure where a lot of emphasis is put on just trying to survive your surroundings. That said, the game does start pretty slow because you're in this base and you can't do much. You got your little travel sled, you have like a battery charger, you hook yourself up to a battery charger, and then if you want to, you can just like walk backwards and just unplug it forcibly. I don't think the thing likes it because it makes a really loud noise, but it doesn't take long for you to finally interact with someone over a radio who's known as the Trader. That's Trader, not Traitor. I don't know, maybe later on he'll probably betray you and that the name is appropriate, but you meet him in a base that's like full of lights, so you have your game begins with like a stealth mission where you're basically naked and you have to like sneak around and hopefully not get caught. And then he gives you your like main objective of the game, where you have to head into that forest area that's been corrupted by that fallen meteorite, and you have to collect samples of this red thing that in a way kind of remind me, have you ever seen like the movie adaptation of War of the Worlds, where the aliens would like harvest humans and their blood, and they would like make these like trees and vines that you would see it. And that's what I got like looking at the samples that you eventually have to collect. So I do wonder if that was maybe inspiration, or it could be just straight up demonic, which I would also believe, because there was also there's kind of an emphasis on like a lot of Christianity. Jesus is all over the place in this game. And I don't know if that later like leads into the theme. Maybe it's just that's what these folks try to do to find comfort in their lives, given that the unknown situation that they find themselves in. It looks like there's a lot of people that died in this scenario, and something is lurking inside these trees and these areas that once you dead, and you will die a lot, as I have in experiencing this. And starting off, you do not have much at your disposal. You can find like blunt weapons, you can find like a crowbar to pry things open and like search for goodies, or you can get like a hatchet that you can use as a melee weapon, but you can also use it to chop wood and make some blocks to make some fires for yourself. Your main weapon that I found anyway was a bolt action rifle, and you can like put like at least 5 shots into it before you have to reload it. And you know, I'm always a sucker for like the reloading animation for FPS games, and this, despite its relatively small development team, knows how to at least get that done right. So you know, kudos. I'm very easily pleased. And at first you might be thinking your enemies are just these shambling ghouls you might find from time to time, who don't put up much of a fight. They're slow as hell, and depending on how good your aim is, they can go down in like 2 shots or 3. As the weather starts picking up, as it starts to get dark, I know, because there does seem to be a day and night cycle in every area of this game. At least going from my experience from the base camp, because in the forest area, it always seems to want to be dark, and I can't really tell even by looking up at the sky. It's like, is it 3 p.m. or is it 3 a.m.? When the weather starts getting bad and the lights start going out, you'll start hearing it, especially if you're wearing headphones, which I have been doing this entire game. I don't know exactly how to describe them, but they jump across the trees, their eyes glow red, and once they spot you, they have multiple ways of attacking you. They could either leap directly at you if you just stand there like a dunce. They can attack you from afar using I can only assume it's like some sort of tongue that they lash out at you, or it could be some sort of energy siphon. I don't know. It's fleshy, it's long, and it hurts, and that's all that matters. Perhaps like the most damaging attack is like this poisonous smog that they can throw at you, and they will do that if they notice that you're hiding in a building for too long, if they happen to know that you're in that building at all. I think they do have some sort of like sight detection where they have to see you in order to attack you. They just don't attack on a whim. They have to know exactly where you are in order to begin an attack, and I like that about that game. If they know you're in a building and you just try and camp out there like all willy-nilly, they will eventually smoke you out. And assuming you don't have a gas mask on that you don't have immediately, you have to craft it yourself. you will die very fast because it does not take much to kill you in this game. But on top of the creatures, you also have the very environment itself, making things uneasy for you because you have a number of things going against you. You have your body temperature, which will slowly decrease the more you just hang out without going to a fire to warm up or anything like that. You have a stamina meter that only dictates how much you can run at a given time. After bed, you have to stop running and just start walking until you recharge. You also have a weight limit to your inventory. You can carry a lot, especially after you craft like the mega backpack. It didn't take me very long to do, but you can only carry so much at once. You also have battery power, which powers up your flashlight, which you will need at certain points of your expedition into the forest area specifically. Maybe inside a couple of buildings if they don't already have like natural light resources. Most of the time, they don't. So you have to use the flashlight in order to see where you're going. And that does drain battery life pretty fast. So a lot of what Expedition Zero ends up being is you planning a route and making a determination of where you're going to go for this specific route for today, or maybe what you might hold off for later so that you're in you're in a better standing to make the trip alive. And early on, that is easier said than done because it does not take your character long to start getting overly cold. Your battery doesn't last that long. Thankfully, there are plenty of recharge stations from what I've noticed. And recharging the battery totally doesn't take more than like a few seconds. So even if I would say if you're getting hounded by something, be it one of the zombies or the dude lurking in the trees, or it's like dudes lurking in the trees, because there's more than one as you keep playing the game. Charging your battery should relatively remain a safe action. So I would say do it if you realize, I'm about to go dark here. A big thing about making your journey safer is crafting. And this is thankfully not as complicated as I thought it was at first. Like at first glance, I thought, oh my God, there are so many these little different things that I collect, like these tins, gaskets, chips, compounds, all that sort of thing. And there are these multiple modules you can interact with where you can make all kinds of different things. You can make like a battery extender. You can make insulation for your suit so you can survive in the colder temperatures for a much longer time. You can, the gas mask that I mentioned earlier, which is required to get past some poisonous smog that sort of like gatekeeps a good portion of the forest area, specifically towards the northwestern part. Crafting the necessary tools is a big part of how you're going to explore deeper and deeper into this forest area and complete the main objective of collecting samples. And what's cool about it, as I found out, was that despite there being so many different kinds of items you can find scattered about, like on top of like ammunition for your gun and all that sort of thing, what you can do is that you can put them inside a printer module, and then you can choose to break down their components to like the most basic things, because things require metal, electrodes, and polymer. And all of these items have one of those elements necessary in order to meet the threshold to make the item you need. So what you can do is like you put them inside the module, hit break them down, and then suddenly boom, they're very easy to manage. And I really like that about that, because now it makes it so less complicated. And I really did dig how smooth that felt and how giddy it made me when I realized, oh yeah, I found some more metal here, I found some more polymer here, and I can finally make this item that I've been to do for a while, because holy God, I don't survive long at all without like an insulator, without a gas mask, without extended battery life. So now what took me like 5 minutes to freeze my ass off, I can now like survive out there for over 20 minutes without having to realize, I should probably head back to base, or head back to my respawn point, or head back to my sled so I can at least recharge my battery and all that. Because another thing about this game is that as you discover more areas around the forest, you're basically finding respawn points where you can take a rest for the day. And I'm thinking you want to rest when you can to like move the clock forward in case you don't want to feel like traveling at night. However, there's still a matter of your body temperature. Most respawn points that I've seen have like some sort of like oven or barrel that you can interact with, put some split wood in there and light the fire up, and you start recharging your body temperature. It doesn't take very long at all, thankfully. But you want to keep in mind of doing that whenever you can, just to make the journey easier. However, there's also just the means of quick saving, because you can save at any point in time of this game. Like it's as easy as hitting the escape key and choosing save, and you choose quick save, and there you go. So if for some reason or another you die sooner than expected for whatever reason, you can just reload your game right then and there and just try again. And I love that, because without that, I don't think I would have made as much progress as I did in the short amount of time. Because as you collect more samples, whatever's out there, the creatures roaming the forest start getting way more aggressive to the point where I was in this forest region northwest of the map after I got past it with the gas mask and all that, and I had like three of these guys hound me as I'm trying to like collect samples or at least deroot these demonic vines in the graveyard. And I got massacred repeatedly trying to collect these samples for this dude, and it's like, what am I doing here? Is this even worth it? Maybe some things I just go back to the church and pray to Jesus. Jesus got my back. Jesus can go to the graveyard and uproot this demonic. I don't know. I hope in like later in the final build of this game we do high five Jesus at some point. I did end up using keyboard and mouse for this, and after some proper key binding here, I did make it extremely comfortable for myself. I was originally trying to use a controller for this because I have my trusty Xbox Series X controller on standby because I think these are just like the best controllers you can use for PC gaming, and normally they're plug and play. And the game says that it has both binds for keyboard and controller, but I tried the controller like minute one and it just wasn't reading my inputs at all. In fact, the camera started spazzing out big time as I tried like moving the analog sticks, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna risk that again. So let's just go to keyboard and mouse. FPS games normally I'm using keyboard and mouse anyway because I think there's you can do a lot more with the amount of buttons and keys at your disposal, your fingertips and all that. So that wasn't that big of a deal. It's just that it's really strange how the controller just did not want to work. There was a degree more jank that I ran into. I'm going to attribute that to the beta nature of this game's release. The worst example I can think of is that in a couple of junctions when I was getting hounded by the creatures in the forest area, they just straight up attacked me through a wall. And normally they're not supposed to do that. Normally they don't see you at all. Unless they see you actively going into a building, they will not like attack you until you're outside the building. But I guess there are some areas where I don't know, maybe the walls aren't coated as well as they could be, but they will just do their tongue attack or just teleport. It looks like they're just straight up teleporting inside the room, and it lets my share of deaths. Worse if there's like multiple ones where the programming of one is working and they'll do that smoke attack I mentioned earlier to like smoke you out, but the other one is just straight up ignoring that and just attacking me through a wall. So that led to a couple of unfair deaths, and it just felt pretty jank. I also noticed that sometimes when I died, the game didn't properly register my death and it wouldn't let me load my game from the game over screen. Now, thankfully, this isn't that big of a deal because just hitting the escape key brings up like the hard menu where you can just load and save your game from there. And loading my game from there fixed the issue, but there are a number of times where the option to load the game just wasn't working. It wasn't registering my keyboard or mouse input or controller input to allow me to load the game. I found the atmosphere and the environment of the game pretty cool. It's very minimalistic. There's not much in music. There's like scare chords every once in a while, and I like the electrical interference that plays in your visor when one of those creatures is close to you. That's basically your warning. It's like get ready because they're here and you need to start preparing to defend yourself. What I think this game could use some work on is better environmental conveyance. And what I mean by that is some areas of the game are pretty guilty of using invisible walls to, block your progress, where despite being in a forest region and looking like you can go here or there, you can't because the game just says that you can't. And in a game that is putting a lot of emphasis on horror and the unknown, I feel this unfortunately took me out of it a couple of times. But there are some areas that were better about that. There is a camp that you can later discover after you find enough samples for the dude. The entire area is walled off except for a few open areas. Now, one of the areas has that invisible wall problem where I mentioned, where it's just, I can't go out because the game says I can't go out. But like on the opposite end of that blockade, there is like this massive truck that blocks the way. And it's like, that's what I'm talking about. As long as you give me like a visual indicator that I cannot bypass what's ahead of me, then that's fine. I don't like it when I just can't proceed along because of an invisible glass dome. That's the best way I can describe it. So I think for like the game's eventual final release, I'm hoping they do a better job in conveying that you cannot go here at this time. I also found it bothersome that health items ended up being so hard to come by, and to my knowledge, there's no way you can craft your own. You have to rely on health bottles, which you just down like beverages, I guess, or bandages, and they heal a substantial amount, so that's good and all. And I do believe after some point they will respawn. All items that you scavenge will respawn if you enter and leave the area, so you'll never find yourself like hurting for materials and other means of defense or offense if you don't mind like entering and exiting an area just to recuperate and maybe plan out for the next day ahead. So as long as you don't mind doing that, then you'll never be hurting for materials. Health items, on the other hand, are very few and far between. Multiple times I was hurting for like a heal because if I get attacked again, especially if there's more than one, and they decide to do different tactics at me, I can't get past this area even after quick. Like it got to a point where I started like save scumming after every little base that I went through. It was like, okay, I'm gonna run across this road and get into the other base. Quick save here. Okay, I made it. No attacks. Gonna jump across the road again. Get to the other part of the area. Quick save here. I felt towards the end of my venture, I was relying a little too heavily on that, only because I could not find health items as often as I could. I found plenty of bullets. I found plenty of metal, polymer, all those other materials to the point where I went over my weight limit a couple of times. I had to put everything in storage. I was like, man, I really don't need 6 batteries, do I? Because I'm pretty sure I'll be fine. This was fun. I spent a couple of hours playing this game for myself in the wee hours of the morning with headphones on, and I was just able to like absorb everything that was thrown at me. Especially if you want to, if you really want to like test your nerves, this sort of thing, play this game with the lights off and really like absorb all of those environmental juices and get the most out of this. Whatever happens from this point, I wish the devs the best of luck. I hope this game does well for them. And I want to thank TinyBuild again for once again supplying me a code for this game. And if you are at all interested in playing this for yourself, you can find all the info you need in the description down below. The game is being released relatively soon at the time of this video going up. I think MSRP is 20 bucks. So if you want to spend a couple of bucks here and try a new indie horror game for yourself, I say go for it. You never know, it could be something that you end up really liking. But that's where I'm going to end things for today. If you did enjoy this video, I appreciate it if you gave it a like, hit subscribe if you want to watch more content, yada, 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 all that obvious stuff. Insert YouTube plug here. That said, I will catch you guys in the next spotlight or the next major review, whatever tickles your fancy. And as always, thank you all for watching. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask if you decide to go outside, get vaccinated if possible. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care.